So just wanted to talk today about multi-cloud, right? So I think in the recent, maybe in the last 6 months to a year, there are two terms in the cloud world that have been buzzing a lot. One is hybrid cloud and one is multi-cloud. So today I want to kind of talk about how we at Google look at multi-cloud and why in general, as an individual or as an organization, you need to start to think about multi-cloud, right? Why is it that I cannot just think about single cloud going forward? Why multi-cloud is important? And also I will try to touch on hybrid cloud, right? So I feel both of these are a bit different, but we will again lot of companies use this terminology interchangeably, but I'll try to give my thought on that. So my name is Mahesh Guram. I'm a customer engineer at Google. I'm based out in Columbus, Ohio. So if any one of you are from Ohio, please let me know. I would love to meet you in person, and maybe we can do in-person lunch or something. So I know we have 20 minutes, so I'm going to make it short and sweet. So I want to talk about multi-cloud, why you need multi-cloud. That's the initial part of the presentation. Then I think we want to talk about a customer story of how they use multi-cloud and how they are actually in all the three major cloud providers and how they use the right customer for the right tool for the right purpose kind of scenario. And finally, as you venture into this thought of multi-cloud, it comes with a lot of inherent risks. There are a lot of benefits, but also it comes with some new risks that you are not going to have on a single cloud platform. So I will give you some thoughts around that on to think about what are some of the thoughts that you want to have around that, right? Again, if you want to dive a bit more deep into that, please later on now. We would love to do a more detailed session just on any of the specific risks or any of that journey that might look like. So starting with why multi-cloud, right? So if you think about how the cloud has evolved over last 10 years, right? Again, I started my cloud journey back, I think in 2010, 2011-ish. So it has been almost 10, 12 years now on the cloud. If you look at how cloud has evolved, everyone was super excited when cloud initially came at the capability it had, at the flexibility it had to spin up and spin down instances and give and pay as you go models and stuff like that. But after 10 years, almost a decade, I think today when you look at the same cloud landscape, you have some amazing software as a service providers, amazing tools that are available in the cloud. And the challenge I run into is not all tools are available at all customers, right? So, for example, there could be this SAS provider, which I actually had ran into the scenario a while back. Was we have this SAS provider, they do amazing insights into a very specific marketing data, but that data is only available in a specific cloud. But as a customer, I definitely want to tap into that analytics, tap into that amazing technology that is available. But if you're thinking about it more from a single cloud approach, it might not be available. That opportunity might be lost to use those amazing analytics. So again, using the best tools wherever they are available, I think is very important. And that is one of the strongest reasons I think you need to have a multi-cloud strategy. Again, it's not just with analytics, right? Even data service providers. There are data service providers who are native to specific clouds. And even as a service provider, I might be very native to a specific cloud. So that specific in that specific cloud I might have a lot more analytics than I might have in other clouds, right? So because of reasons like that, again, making sure you get the maximum out of each scenario, I think having that best tool is very important. And again, lock-ins are, I know that a lot of people moved out of Oracle and lock-ins were the thing of the past. But believe me, as you are getting into cloud and as you're trying to use cloud native services, right? Each cloud, including Google, we have our own native services. So as you're building architectures using more using these cloud native services, technically you're actually locking in yourself in there, because if you think about moving out of that or after the cloud is going to be extremely tough because you're using those native services, right? So you want to think about a cloud who not only supports those native services but also at the same time uses those native services and eventually has open source them, right? You need to have something around that. And also other thing, especially when you're building architectures, build it in layered approach and make sure your foundation layers are not tied to these specific services. Again, based on my experience, I think that goes a long way. So the higher the in your layered approach, the higher layers can be tied to specific services in the cloud. But as you go deeper, you want to make sure that is not tied to any specific cloud, right? That way, it is more agile, and if you tomorrow see a better fit in a different cloud, you can easily migrate there. And again, every cloud provider, all the cloud providers, all the 4 or 5 big ones, if you look at, had some downtime during some part in the last 1 year, right? If you all of them have amazing stats where we post all of that, right? So if you look at it, the idea here is every cloud will definitely have a downtime. End of the day, they are running hardware, so it might have a downtime. So having your solution in multi-cloud uh, might actually reduce your risk of being down for your business, right? So again, that is an amazing reason to think about multi-cloud. More like, I have a lot of customers who do their primary in one cloud and their DR is in a totally different cloud. The reason they want is they still want to be as close to their customers as possible, but at the same time, if there is a major issue going on with one cloud, they don't want it to affect their business, right? So rather than using the same cloud for your DR and your primary, think about having multiple cloud approach there. Again, multiple there are a lot more reasons, but I think these are the very important ones that you need to think about.
Hey, one other thing, just to reinforce that, I hear this a lot from the Angelbeat community, is that 5 nines of reliability are no longer good enough because you can still be down for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a year. Now everyone's looking for 7, 8, and 9 nines of reliability, given the importance of technology, just reinforces the value of multi-cloud.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. You just stole my next slide there, but yeah, I think just to add on to what Ron was saying, like 5 nines of reliability gives you, I think, about 5 minutes downtime in a year or something like that. So if you think about it, that is no longer acceptable in today's business world, right? You literally want to have 0 downtime even when you're doing major upgrades. So think about how can you handle scenarios like that, right? So having it in multi-cloud would definitely help you with that approach. So given that background, I think having a multi-cloud strategy is your next step, logical next step, right? You don't want to be tied up with a single cloud. You want to have that more availability. You want to use the benefits where they are available. So basically, what is a multi-cloud strategy is thinking about how you can use multiple clouds for the benefit of having your strategy, having your long-term goals, making sure you're using the tools, right? Again, each cloud has their uh, own positives and negatives, so scenarios like that. So making sure you're using everything at the right time, right? So, and because of that, again, you're not relying on any single specific cloud provider. You're moving away from that lock-in possibility. And again, if you like a specific cloud, or you're not just one person liking it or an organization liking it, but even based on the skill set that you have, there might be certain inclination towards a specific cloud, again, from a people perspective. So you might actually get that. And because you are now actually diversifying into multiple clouds, you're going to have a lot more agility on how you will handle stuff, right? And again, as I said, I will talk about some of the risks that come out with this approach and how to handle them as well. So normally when you go with multi-cloud approach, there are a few things that you want to think about, right? One is a lot of people think about it as a lowest common denominator. I think, again, this is not something true, right? For example, let's say you take Python across the major clouds. A specific version of Python might be supported by all the major ones. So people will think maybe because everyone is aligned on that, I want to develop on that and not use a newer Python version, right? Again, it might not be always true, right? It is always think about it. How can I use one cloud provider who is supporting the latest one, and how can I benefit from them? Again, I think it is right. Again, a good example with Google is we have invested extremely heavily in AI in the past few years. Gen AI is an amazing tool. We have Bard and all these new Gen AI technologies that are available on Google Cloud. So if you want to use Google Cloud, make sure, if you want to use anything around that, you can easily come and use Gen AI, because they are all plug and play services, most of them within the Google Cloud, right? Again, and you can also develop some amazing AI models on back of something that we already did, right? So that way you're actually using Google Cloud for all your AI data analytics capabilities, but still having your infrastructure and your day-to-day activities being run on a different cloud. Just an example there. You also can use a lot of new apps. Again, as I said, a lot of data providers and stuff like that, where they are specifically tied to a specific region for whatever reason, and stuff like that. Again, think about it into for two different options, right? One is where I'm building the foundation, which is cloud agnostic, and where I'm trying to build few layers on top of it, where I can use the right tool for the right purpose, whichever cloud provider is advanced in that, I'm going to use it for that purpose, kind of stuff. So why is Google relevant in this cloud? Again, very few points that I thought would be very interesting. Is we extremely invested extremely heavily in the AI space. If you look at not just the Google Cloud, but overall Google One product landscape, right? Pixel is a great example where we are investing so heavily in our products as well, right? So the Magic Eraser is an amazing AI tool that I really am amazed about in the Pixel. But if you see what runs behind that, it's all the data models and LLMs that we developed in GCP, right? So there is a lot of investment into that, and there is a lot of investment not only into the proprietary models that we are building, but also there is a lot of investment into open sourcing all of them that we are building, right? And when you look at the cost benefit for your AI models versus using some of our plugin tools, I think it's amazing. I don't know if you guys know, there is a product we have called Google Lens. It's an app that you can install, and behind the scene, it's AI trying to recognize these vision pictures and give you optimized results, right? Again, Vision AI is a good tool there. Apart, again, we also have a lot of industry-specific model. We just released MedPalm, again, which is extremely important in AI, right? So if you can ask MedPalm any LLM, you can ask it any medical question, and it will help you understand a lot of medical terminology. When I go to a doctor and come back, half of it is just on top of my mind. So it helps you better understand what's going on in there, and it also helps you with operations and stuff like that. Again, we acquired a Apache, I think in 2016 or something. It has been a very long relationship with them, and anytime you think about APIs, we have a great investment into that. And again, Apache, when you look at it, is multi-cloud, right? So you have huge customers in some of our other cloud providers that still use them. And again, if you have anything around API and stuff, I think is amazing. And finally, I think our approach always has been a multi-cloud, right? So multi-cloud, when we mean multi-cloud, we are talking about not just one cloud, but also multiple clouds and also on premises. And I think a lot of times we use the word hybrid cloud when you want to talk about on-prem and one cloud. But I think when we look at multi-cloud, we are talking about not only on multiple clouds that are available, but also how we can use on-prem. And as I said, we invest heavily, and most of our tools, we open source them. A good example is Kubernetes, TensorFlow, right? Stuff like that. And we also, our multi-cloud approach is extremely strong using Anthos. So we have Anthos, which spreads across multiple clouds. You can just log in into GCP and monitor services and Kubernetes from multiple clouds. So we have these amazing tools that we have developed and open sourced. And as I said, as you are selecting your cloud provider, that is one thing you want to think about is, are they investing in open source? Because eventually you want to have a lot more contribution from the larger world rather than the cloud provider themselves. Again, as I said, open source is a great reason you want to think about any cloud provider with your multi-cloud strategy. You wanted also some tools. How does this help my developers too, right? How do I increase my productivity? Because now that you're talking about multiple clouds, how do you increase the productivity and stuff like that? And also using whatever is available wherever and making sure you're going to get that at that point without any problem, right? And also the maintenance when you're having multiple clouds is going to be a challenge. So think about like in GCP, we have Anthos, and it's, as I said, it can maintain across multiple clouds. So a great example of how we are investing in cloud. So I'm going to run a bit quick on this one. Again, we have multiple stories, multiple customers on, they're using multi-cloud approach, Walmart, Uber being a great examples of them. And one story, however, I wanted to talk about was Renault, right? So the reason I picked this one, though it's I think about a year and a half old, is because it talks about some of our strengths. At the same time, it also talks about multi-cloud footprint they had in multiple clouds, including AWS and Azure. So they decided to have infrastructure hosted by one cloud provider. Then they said, okay, for my all real-time analytics or for real-time data, I'm going to have another cloud provider. And all the analytics, all the data eventually flows into GCP, and GCP is going to be my primary analytical platform at the same time, and also use that into the AI space, right? So if you look at the reason they picked all of these, one of the reasons when you look at I'll send this out to Ron and he will give you, but when you look at the blog, the release of the press release on this, it is like AWS they selected because the team wanted to, they had a great experience with that. They didn't want to move out of that. But eventually when they selected, they wanted a platform which had analytical capabilities. They wanted less management, and GCP was definitely a default choice there, right? Again, it was extremely serverless. Our BigQuery offering is serverless. You don't have to select, tell us how much memory you need for that and stuff like that. And also we had a very good cloud, cost management, right? So we can even tell you to the penny where your dollars are going. And I think this is a great example of having that multi-cloud approach all the way from starting and making sure you're using the right cloud for the right purpose based on even your people challenges. So I have few more slides here. As I said, I wanted to talk about the risk, right? I mean, I talked a lot about the benefits. So I'm going to now talk to you about some of the risks that you're going to run into. The first one will be around the landing zone setup, right? So when you have multiple clouds, having that setting up in multiple clouds and making sure all of them talk to each other. So for example, I might say I want to have an instance. As a developer, all I would care is I want to have an instance. Where is that instance available? Right. So stuff like that. You're going to have some challenges around that. So I'll quickly talk about some of those. We will also have some challenges around architecture because all cloud providers, getting the data into the cloud provider is free of cost. But when you think about it, actually moving the data from one cloud to other cloud is having egress charges, right? So thinking about how am I going to minimize that, at the same time use the maximum benefit out of it. And also some architectural and governance considerations that you want to think about in those scenarios. And I think it's always important to think about people and how much upskilling they need, especially when you're doing it in different clouds. And if you're using some of the native services from cloud providers. And also cost is important to making sure you understand, you have some view into these multiple cloud strategies, and all of that is very important, right? So again, there are some risks. I'll quickly talk about how do you mitigate some of them, right? And again, as I said, for analytics, HP is a great platform. So some of the risks around, as I said, around landing zone or around how do you authenticate? Are you going to use the same authentication mechanism from one cloud against other? How are you going to do these access controls and stuff like that? So one strong solution I would say would be trying to use and sync up into whatever your Azure AD or whatever your AD configurations are going to be important. And also the other reasons around logs and cost management, right? So rather than having to maintain your logs and costs in different clouds, try to have a strategy where you kind of have one view of your all log management. So use a tool or use one of the providers out there who are spread across where they can do all cloud log management. Again, this is from my experience in the past is if you are going to use log management with different log providers, the log error codes are going to be different. So in middle of the night when something goes wrong, it's going to be really tough for your operations to look into what's going on. And also have the same cost management, right? A good thought there would be thinking about the same labeling strategy across multiple zones, and making sure multiple clouds, making sure you have the same strategy from a labeling standpoint, from your billing standpoint, and stuff like that. And two areas that I think you need to be very specific or make more thought into and make informed decisions would be around networking and security. How are you going to define your network in these multiple clouds, right? Again, GCP has a global VPC. Other cloud providers don't have that, right? So thinking about how can I take something from a networking and security standpoint that I'm building and reusing it across multiple clouds. Again, those are, I think, extremely important points. I'll just go into the landing zone. I think this is pretty much what I was talked about. And even in security, one thing you want to think about is how are you going to handle your data governance, right? When you have in multiple clouds, what are your thoughts there? The other thing around architecture and governance, this is very specific to data and blueprints around architectures, right? Again, sometimes when you try to do cloud architecture, there are few elements that are tied to each individual cloud provider. So try to see how you are want to handle that and how your blueprints are going to convert, right? A good example there could be try to use something like a Terraform or something which has implementations in all clouds. So you develop Terraform templates and then use it in whichever specific cloud you want to do that. Right, again, make sure you have some really good understanding about how your data, you know where your data lies, and you know what are the governance controls around that, who is the data owner going to be, especially when you have data in multiple clouds. You want to understand that. But if you say, okay, my data is always going to be in GCP, it doesn't matter. But if you're thinking about having it in multiple clouds or even having reports in multiple clouds, think about how are you going to do that. Lifecycle management is another great example on thinking about how are you going to handle this incoming data, right? A good example with Renault was they had streaming data coming in from Azure, they had IaaS in AWS, they had analytics in GCP, and you need to have clear lifecycle management on how are you going to handle these three different types of data that are coming in, and how are you going to have that unique view into everything that is going on. And finally, I think people are very, very important for success of any cloud transformation or any cloud journey. So making sure you're investing in your FTEs and upskilling them with whatever new cloud you are going to go with, I think is extremely important. And even one great thing that has helped me multiple times is having a cloud center of excellence team, which helps you not only with single cloud but also multi-cloud implementation. And I think with the Center of Excellence team, they can take whatever these cloud providers give you as best practice, right? So, for example, if you go to GCP, you will see a lot of best practices we publish. You can take that blog that we have published our best practices and convert that into your specific company's best practices, right? There is a journey on that. So that is what I think COEs can do, and also help you with upskilling, making sure you have the right resources, making sure they are given the right opportunities, not only to upskill, but also use some of the skills they learned, I think is extremely important. So I think that's all I had. Hopefully you got some view into our multi-cloud journey, our thoughts around that, and hopefully you will think about multi-cloud as part of your cloud journey.